Hello and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. I will be your host, and my name is Allison. And with me today is Brian, and I believe we have resolved a great deal of our technical difficulties. So, we shall be bringing you a show where you can hear us even while you're looking at a still of the thing we're responding to. Or you can see the still even while you're listening to us. Something
No,
like
they
that.
can't.
Anyway.
No, they can't see the still. They can't see it. That's
All right,
it is not doing as it should be doing. I mean, it's not. It is behaving exactly in the way it's supposed to be behaving.
It is behaving exactly the way it is supposed to be. The technical difficulties is that I am explaining it in a very poor way. But regardless of that, we have a new show for you, Women Liberated, Women Most Affected, in which we respond to some commentary by Tim Poole and Rachel Wilson on the nature of the changes in the workplace and how they've affected women and who is ultimately to blame for that. And again, this is maintaining frame 109 for all of you who are checking that off your list. So
yeah,
because there is someone, there's somebody out there.
There are collectors. Like, they got the episode 109 still in the plastic. Don't open it up. Don't break the blister pack on that.
As soon as you listen to it, loses like 3/4 of its value, guys. So there you go. Maybe that's why most people don't listen to us.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. All right. So before we get into it, please do send your comments at feedthebadger.com/justatip. We get the full benefit of whatever funds you send, and you get the benefit of sending your comment through something other than YouTube's comment thresher system. That's a euphemism. So once again, feedthebadger.com/justtip. I am still working on getting everything ready so that we can do our very first HBR poster run. And Jonathan is also doing it because he's going to be doing the silk screening. I will be doing all of the WooCommerce pressing to make it happen. But that keep your eyes on feedthebadger.com/support. We should have that out, and you should be able to purchase posters to help support the show. So you get a lovely poster, and we get the ability to continue to bring you this content. So once again, feedthebadger.com/justtip to send us a tip, and feedthebadger.com/support to support the show in the near future. Probably be up by Friday. All right. Shall we just dive into it?
Yeah, let's get into it. So this is another clip from the same show we covered. Let's see, Monday? Yesterday was Tuesday. Today's Wednesday. Yeah, on Monday we were going through a clip from Timcast. I think it's Tim Poole's Timcast, and they were discussing women and stuff. And this is another clip that I thought it's actually a little bit meatier. I think this is a meatier clip, a better one that we could be looking at. So let's just get into it from the beginning, and I'm going to play it and just like speak up when you're ready to say something. So here we go.
Feminism is you get all the women out of the home and into the workforce. You have twice as many incomes to tax. You have kids that are in daycares and state-run schools where you can give children the values and the history that you want to give them.
I don't think the tax thing, the double taxation thing is correct, because if you have singular income homes, the buying power you're taxing is the same. And so it just led to rapid inflation. It strained the workforce. I love this. There's this graph that lefties like to show, where it's like right around the end of the 70s, you see wages, you see like inflation keep going up, but wages stay the same. And they're like, what was this all about? This is because they were going after unions. And it's like, no, that's when women entered the workforce. Competition among workers.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I think he's got a point with pushing back a bit on the whole tax thing. I'm not so sure that inflation really is playing a big role in that they wanted to get. I think when they bring in more of the increase in spending that two incomes, two households creates, I think that's where it lies. It increases the GDP. You know how they'll say that if you break a window, you increase the GDP. Well, if you break a marriage, you increase the GDP significantly. Yeah. So I think that's more of where it comes in. It's not the tax revenue, it's the flow of money. They need to keep a high flow of money, like keep the money whipping around, because that's what actually gives, I believe, the US dollar and all of the other subsidiary dollars tied to it their actual value. is the sheer volume at which they're used. So if you think about it, if basically what happens is you give other like emerging economies your money in exchange for their goods, if you are able to absorb whatever you send to them, like if you buy, I don't know, if you spend $10 for a sundress, that $10 is going to retain its value to the local economy because a sundress costs $1,000 in the US. That makes sense. Like there will always be a higher demand for US dollars in the US than anywhere else, which means that because of that higher demand, it maintains the value everywhere else. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's the way I see it in my analysis. Please tell me if you understand what I'm saying. It is the volume of currency moving that gives it fiat currency its value. So the more you've got in the air, the more balls you got juggling in the air, the more valuable it is. If it slows down, it loses value. So the more you have people exchanging money for goods instead of having a household in which all labor is, there is no exchange of money, right? So if you pay a maid, the GDP goes up. If you have a stay-at-home wife, it goes down. Does that make sense? If you grow your own vegetables, the GDP goes down. If you buy them from Whole Foods, it goes up. If you
well, then maybe GDP isn't really like the best measure of the quality of life.
No, it is absolutely not.
No, I know. This is
not.
Yeah. So, and I don't know if like Timple was did he say GDP? Because I think that when women entered the workforce, it actually did lower the average across the board in terms of earnings.
Men's income lowered significantly while women's raised a bit. Relative income lowered, but that's not what matters. As long as they keep the money in motion, it doesn't matter that your spending power based on your income is like one half what it was 70 years ago or is 50 years ago. That doesn't matter. They don't care about the actual living standard of the average American. They care that you're moving money. So if you have to spend now $700 to get an orange, that's better, and your income is only like $70,000 a month. That's better, that you're spending that, or $7,000 a month. You're spending $700 on an orange, than if in the 70s you were making $700 and spending 7 cents on an orange. It's like even though the orange is now 10% of your income, because you're making $7,000 a month, you're spending $700 on an orange, it's 10% of your income. It doesn't matter. And when you were in the 70s, it was only like 0.1% of your income. That doesn't matter. The fact that you're moving $7,000 a month, it does. That's what matters to them. That's it. And so they will eat every bit of the real value of your income just to keep that money moving. And that's what we're seeing. Yep. And so the whole idea, and not only is it higher in does the GDP go up if you have a maid instead of stay-at-home mom? The GDP goes up if you have to hire a carpenter instead of getting your husband to do it, right? The GDP goes up if you go to a mechanic instead of your husband fixing your car. So any of these tasks, these specific tasks that women and men were inclined towards, like in the 50s and 60s, men would just generally know a little bit about mechanics, a bit about carpentry, a bit about roofing, a bit about, all of this stuff. And they would bring that expertise, not a complete expertise. You'd still probably want to go and get a carpenter for some things, right? But they would bring that so smaller jobs could get done within the home. And then women would have their own types of expertise that they wanted to get rid of that. So they said, all of that is sexist. Get rid of it. There should be no exchange of goods that doesn't involve the money, the fiat. Yep. And then that just increases the GDP. So tax revenue is one thing. I think it's an element, but I think the bigger element is that they are trying to maintain the value of a fiat currency, because the US dollar has done so. And I'm not singling out the US dollar. Someone was like, oh my God, you're always a Canadian complaining about the US. 100%, this applies to all of the currencies that are tied to the US dollar. That includes the Canadian dollar, it includes the pound, it includes the euro, all of them. All this 100% includes every single country that parasitizes on the US for its military budget. Every single one of those currencies rely on that kind of movement in order to have value. And yeah, I think that's the big thing here. And there's something even deeper. I could take you another deeper level, but I don't know if you want me to. I could go deeper. We can go deeper.
Yeah, we can just keep. I don't think that's the baseline of this discussion in this video clip. It's about whether
deeper, Brian.
I know,
Deeper.
but this is about girl bosses and why, like, what is the point of them? So let's play some
girl
more.
bosses are just a tip of the iceberg. We need to dive into our deep in our submarine, 100 leagues under the sea. See the full picture. Okay, all right.
I'll grab my Xbox controller and we'll do that. But all right, I'm gonna play this now.
It's doubled, and that's going to depress wages, guaranteed.
So why do you think suddenly in the 1970s we saw this huge number of women enter the work?
Hold on, Allison. You made a noise. Okay, I'm gonna play it again.
I gotta mute.
Okay.
Sorry, guys.
No, you don't have to mute. Just like try not to be too squirrely and like.
Yeah, try not to be squirrely. Okay.
Okay.
Let me try not to be me.
All right. I'm gonna play it now.
Workforce, like they just organically decided.
I'm just going back a little bit so that we can hear her point because I think it's a good one. Okay.
Just guaranteed.
So why do you think suddenly in the 1970s we saw this huge number of women enter the workforce? Like they just organically decided they loved careerism, or do you think it had something to do with all the propaganda telling them that you need to have an education and have your own money because if you don't, you're vulnerable and your husband can abuse you? And
but we have to get a bit more reductive because while what you're saying is absolutely true, where does this come from? And I blame men. Weak men. Men are weak. Men continually grow weak. And an element of what's going on with the feminism, you know, I'll mention a lot of what we're seeing is really, really bad, like no fault divorce, just basically meant marriage is over.
What a surprise!
It's like
okay.
Yeah.
What a surprise!
Go ahead.
We're gonna blame men, guys.
I blame men.
I blame men.
I have a unique and very novel approach to this. I know women are making a lot of really bad choices. And I know women are tearing this country apart. And I know that women are killing their babies. And I know that women are voting for open borders to destroy everything because they're angry at like edgy boys on Twitter. But I think I'm gonna go with blaming men, Bob. I'll take what's behind door number, let's blame men. And let's see what happens. I know up until this point blaming men hasn't worked, but I feel like it's a trick and actually this time it's gonna work. This time.
Okay, this time. Oh man. Yeah, this is like the weak I hate that saying now. It's become it's a thought terminating cliche. Strong men create strong systems. Weak men create bad times, and bad times create strong men. And then nowhere are women, because women just don't exist, I guess, except as rewards and measuring sticks to men's actions. You know, and it's like the quote that I really like was from Mae West, and she said, "When women go bad, men go right after them." And I think that's more honest to what's happening and what's going on.
Yeah, I think that makes more sense.
And she was smart. She was a smart lady.
Understood human nature, I think.
Yes, she did. She understood human nature very well. And to quote the estimable Al Bundy, women understand women and they hate them. I don't want to understand women. Women understand women and they hate them.
Yes.
Mae West understood women. And she also understood men. And I think we've forgotten a lot of that. And it's unfortunate. And part of the reason why we forget it, because we can't seem to get women to take responsibility for anything. Mm-hmm. Like we're immediately defaulting on women went into the workforce. Who's to blame? Men. How? What part of this is men's fault? The fact they hired women? what were they supposed to do? Continue to not hire women when it became illegal to discriminate against them? Like, what the hell? Were men supposed to be like, I'm not going to marry any woman with a job? You know, like, men can't be responsible for all of the actions of a group of people who are now the majority electorate and have been since the 60s. Like, it's just not possible. Like, even if you just replaced women with femboys, men still couldn't be responsible for the actions of the femboys, but possibly Tim would be able to see that.
Yeah.
Possibly in the analysis of agency, femboy ranks higher than woman in his.
Sometimes I think he's playing devil's advocate a lot. Like he doesn't want it to turn into, you know, I don't know, like a jerk, like a circle jerk. But at the same time, though, like, I mean, really, like, how long have we been doing this? Yeah, go ahead. I mean, he's had on guys from the, say, red pill space on his show. So I don't want to name names because people get triggered, but like, he's had people on that have made explicitly clear what the problem is in our society with relationships, with marriage, divorce, family, fatherlessness, etc. And it just seems like there's just a hole in his mind right now because he's making this like, I blame men. And it's almost like, well, did you want men to just crack down on women, just crack down on them? Because I mean, like, I'm sure, like, I think that it could get to that point where there will be a class of men that is going to be like, done with the bullshit, we're cracking down, you are now officially oppressed, here are your shackles. But when that happens, the women are going to be like, look, see, this is what men are like. So it's like, you can't win, like, you just have to like hope. But basically the only tool I think that we have at this stage is women shaming women. That's what we got, and I think it's working. I think that it's good, you know, and men just checking out and women basically telling other women to shape up. I think that's what it is. Because like, what's the female version of failure to launch? What is that? Because like, failure to launch, when men are like they're middle-aged and they're still at home with their parents and they live in their mom's basement and they watch porn and play video games all day, let's say, and people are saying, look, you know, this isn't good for you. It's not just because you're not serving society, but it's also not good for you because it's going to make you're not going to get better. You have to like do something, right? We will engage in shaming in those guys to get them to change their lifestyle so that it is better, not just for the greater society, but for themselves. And we call it something, we call it failure to launch, we call it man children, whatever. And I think that while I'm not generally in favor of judging a person for their interests or hobbies, I don't do that because I have nerdy hobbies too. I do think that in the long run, it's probably good for them because if they stay that way, they're just going to self-destruct. But what we don't have is a version of that for women. And maybe we should. Maybe we should have something like that for women. Like we have Cat Lady, but like it doesn't seem to have the same sting to it, you know. Plus, I wouldn't wish that on cats, you know.
I just wanted to get in there. I think there's a slight technical difficulty. For some reason, it's just focusing on me instead of showing you while you talk.
Oh, I don't know why that is, but it's fine. It's probably the macro is a little bit unresponsive, or maybe my volume isn't loud enough.
Well, it's switched over now. I don't know. Did you actually switch it over, or?
No, I think. Let me just check.
It switched over now, so it's working now.
Oh, I did that. That's why. I switched it over. Yeah,
just maybe be careful with that because it seems like it's loving me for some reason today, and I don't know why.
I put you at a higher priority.
Maybe reduce that a bit.
You do well. I mean, I can only do like one step, so that either
you're
the higher or I'm the higher. So yeah.
Okay, so I just need to shut my mouth when you talk.
Right. Well, let's play more of the video.
You're dating now. That's
right.
It. You're dating with a special placard from the government, but you can just leave at any moment. That's ridiculous.
Yes.
And these are bad things. However, you know, all these guys that are watching these anti-women channel, like, I try not to be a dick to people who want to figure out how to better their lives. Like if I see a guy going to the gym, I'm going to tell like, and he's fat and he's overweight or whatever, and he's struggling, I'm going to be like, bro, you got this. You know what I mean? So I see these guys who are watching these channels, and part of me is just like, that's stupid. But I'm not going to hate on a guy who's actively investigating. They may not understand completely, but they're like, why is this thing happening? But I'll just put it this way. Part of what we're seeing, it's actually good. You know why? Weak men will fail, and they deserve to fail. And
okay, but weak men apparently are Western men. Like in this analysis, they are the ones who are not being, apparently their women are not finding them attractive. So what will happen when Western men fail? Western society will go with it. So I guess it was nice while it lasted. Like,
what is meant by that? What is meant by weak men will fail and they deserve to fail? Again, like, what does that mean? Because if it just means women aren't picking them and those men are doing their best, because like I think this is what I think Tim is doing. He's kind of like he's finding the men who are, let's say, the least ambitious, and he's saying that that's all the men who are not finding partners. But women are not picking from not only the least productive or the least successful men, they're also not picking like the ones who are reasonably successful, even the ones who might own their own business, a small one, right? Or someone who's like solidly pursuing the middle class. While women, by the way, vote to make the middle class vanish with their choices, but nonetheless, and those women are only selecting the top men. And so that means that all like does that mean that 90% or 85% of men are just failures that deserve to fail? Because that we're moving towards a harem model right now where women are willing to share, like, you know, a man amongst a number of them. Is that the kind of society that we want to live in? Like, can we not say that like women are being unreasonable? Like, I mean, there are plenty of people calling them out. Femme Sapien says she has a problem with modern Western women, and it's the entitlement and they're spoiled. And for whatever reason, Tim wants to do everything but say that. But maybe Rachel does. Can't remember. I think she does. Do you want to say something, Allison? I know you're trying to.
I'm trying to stay muted when I'm not talking, just because. Again, the honest to God truth is that Western society is failing to make its men attractive. I mean, you can say it's because they're weak, but I mean, honestly, how much do men have to overcome? They have to overcome an institutionalized narrative that their existence is a net loss for women, like that they are terrible partners, that women are less happy with them, which is not true. They're actually more happy as married women are more happy than single. But what is the top Quora answer? Oh, single women are more happy, in complete defiance of the actual statistics. So we are actively lying to women about men's worth in partnerships. And he's saying that as a result, women are not choosing men because they've been lied to, honestly, in part. They're not choosing men because they've been told that, they've been told that men are terrible oppressors. And what are they going and dating? They're going and dating who they've been told men are, who they've been told this is masculinity, this is manhood. It's the top 5% that can treat them as disposable, right? Well, that's what they're doing. Like, and it's all as a result of a whole bunch of lies. And men aren't able to combat those lies. And he's saying that makes them weak. Well, really, nothing has changed that much about men. They're now subject to a society-wide narrative that they're a worthless option, and a society-wide lie about men. And women are not selecting men because they have bought into the lie. And it's almost like men have nothing to do with it. They were just trucking along, keeping society running, doing the work, buying their wives a whole bunch of leisure time, which apparently women will never forgive men for in the 50s and 60s. And then suddenly there was this rise of this narrative, this sales pitch about how horrible they were. And then suddenly they're undesirable as partners because women are buying into the sales pitch. At what point does this make men weak? Like, I don't understand that. I don't understand the idea that the weak men are going to lose out when it was not something men did. It was society constructing this narrative. And now the only men who women will consider are men who have all of like the social proof of being desired by other women and are in like the top 10%. That's the only ones that they will allow because they think that men are such a detriment that they have to, they have to pile on all of the other stuff in the other side of the, the scale in order to be worth it. That's really, and we've raised the bar of what men have to be in order to be worth it. And not because the average man is less average than the average woman, but just because we've decided to embrace a society-wide threat narrative about men and lie about their worth as partners. It's just, okay, and I don't know what he means by weak men here. How is this male weakness? I mean, okay, fair enough. Let's lean into the weakness. Let's not hide from it. And I apologize if this gets insulting. Yes, men are less powerful when it comes to creating a social milieu than women. Women set the emotional tenor. This is something that I have noticed constantly, right? Women will dominate informal discussions. They dominate social media. They dominate things based on their sensibilities. They are the dominant sex when it comes to the social atmosphere and also the social perception of the other sex. So they, in some ways, they don't necessarily dominate men's identity, but they dominate the perception of men's identity in the social sphere. So yeah, maybe men are weak because they're up against women who are strong in a particular way. And our society is now revolving around that, like where are the discussions taking place? Twitter. Who dominates Twitter? Women, right? It's no longer in the commons. Yes.
Other than right after cat turd is women. It's cat turd, then women.
Cat turd, then women. So women sort of dominate Facebook. It's all about these online social media areas, and they are indeed dominated by women. I guess YouTube is more dominated by men because women are dominant when it comes to these social factors. Period. The end. Full stop. Can we just allow that acceptance of reality? But now that we understand that women are dominant in a particular way, they have power in a particular way. Men's issues advocates have said this, we need women talking about these things because they get heard, and 100%, I agree with that. I feel it's unfortunate, but it's true, and I can fight that reality or I can just lean into it. But we have this situation where women have a power, they have power of the social landscape that men don't. We can continue to call men weak because of this patent reality that has existed since the dawn of time, or we can say to women, what the hell are you doing? You have power, it's time to take responsibility for it. And just recognize that at this point in time, what are men supposed to do? Are they supposed to just slap women's smartphones out of their hands? Like, is that, what is non-weak in this context? Is it a guy just going down the street of New York and just slapping cell phones and crushing them? I don't know. What are men supposed to do? Are they supposed to order women back to the kitchen? And what if they do, Tim? Are you okay with that? Are you okay with the necessity of what would need to happen in order for men to have the authority commiserate with the responsibility you're putting on them? Would you be okay with that? Are you okay with a red pill bros saying, yeah, well, a husband should be able to determine when and where a woman gets on social media, and fathers should be able to just cut off girls' social media and all this. Are you going to accept men's authority, or are you just giving them responsibility? And guess what? If you do not give men commiserate authority, when you say that everything is happening because of weak men, when you give them this responsibility, you're just blaming them to no avail. You're making mouth noises that make you feel better but do nothing. Okay.
Yep.
That was a bit of
All right, let's watch some more, a little bit.
I will mock their failure.
Well, what about Acolyte? Star Wars sucks. I mean, this does.
I'll watch it. And where are the strong men to lift the burdens and the heavy rocks to make good stuff? So here's what I'm saying. You got a bunch of guys that are sitting online, overweight. And again, I'm not making fun of everybody's overweight, saying everybody's overweight is a failure.
Okay, so
I'm saying
men
you've got
online are
guys-
the problem. All right. So again, what is his solution here aside from blaming men, which is nonsense? It's just basically saying, let's throw this entire problem into the hole of let's not do anything. That's what blaming men does at this point. It's just like, I don't like this problem. Framing this problem in a way is making me feel a little bit uncomfortable and tingly in a weird way. So I'm just going to throw it into the chasm of men are to blame. And not so we don't have to think about it. But like, seriously, now he's going after men online. Okay, well, who the hell else is going to deal with the problem of women being online, creating this social or reinforcing this landscape that men are worthless? You know what? I should shut up. Maybe he comes out of nowhere with like a huge solution. You know?
No, I mean, I think Tim is. I think he makes a mistake that a lot of people make is they look at where there might be chinks in like their preconceived notion of what a healthy society is supposed to look like. They target those and then they criticize them, because if Tim's issue is that there are people doing things online, Tim, you do things online. Like, you know, the I don't know if they're going to do this, but can I just say that people who blame the internet for the world's problems, or blame social media, or blame Twitter, that's a boomer argument. I'm tired of it. It's a boomer argument. It's cringe. Stop doing it. It's gay. I'm not a fan, because if it weren't for the internet, like, there's so much that we wouldn't have. In fact, it is a net positive, full stop, period. And your problem with the internet and your problem with social media is actually a problem with people, because the what makes the social media are the people. So stop making the internet is bad argument. It's gay and lame and cringe. Okay, so let's play more.
Who are not trying to better themselves, who are not trying to exercise, who are not cleaning the Cheetos off their mustache, who aren't.
Tim.
That's right. I'm looking at you, Alex. They're not wiping their armpits.
You know that I do eat a lot of Cheetos and stuff. Yes, Tim knows that. That is
what we're seeing right now. Is, for one, we can go back 100 years, 200 years, and talk about suffrage, and it was weak men across the board who kept bending the knee and could not maintain social order. They just gave up. But I look at today.
Whoa. So, okay, well, I mean, it was mostly women who opposed the suffrage, but, and then it was just male politicians. So weak men who gave women the suffrage. That's a real, geez, that's one hell of a red pill, you know, like.
It is a bit of a red pill. It's true, but again, it's one of these like.
But as long
come
as you
on,
blame
Tim,
men,
are
it's
you?
okay.
Are you? Yeah, you're still blaming men at the end of the day, right? That's the end goal, because you wouldn't want to sit there and say, well, frankly, I don't think we should have gave women the vote. But then now you are the bad guy, right? So instead, just say, it's the weakness. And then the ladies are like leaning in, like, what are you going to say of men? Yes, that's right. It is men's fault. As long as it's men's fault, you can actually claim that women shouldn't have rights, and that it's men's fault that they have them. You could just blame men. You know what? As long as you're blaming men, everything else is okay.
Yeah, as long as you're blaming. Well, what is Islam? I'm sorry. Women apparently, far fewer rights than the West, but I wouldn't say that it's necessarily woman hatred. But you blame men, you give women no rights. There you go. This is going to be the excuse. Like, I mean, honestly, did you notice that though? It's like we're having this discussion, and it's happening in the negative space of let's blame men, but he's essentially saying that that women's suffrage is a bad thing.
He's kind of framing it that way. That's probably because he knows that some people like Rachel Wilson would agree with him. But the thing is that it's the framing. The framing is it's still putting it on men, and it's like, yeah, but now that women are in the position where they could say, you know, we should revisit this thing, maybe the idea of universal suffrage, not just women's suffrage, just universal suffrage in general, maybe that's a bad idea, and maybe we should like back off on that, because there are people who don't have like a duty to make a choice that is right for a given nation and vote in a way that is both good for, you know, the nation as a whole, as well as the future generations that will live here. No, instead, the women are like, we should get younger people to vote. We should get like people who've never lived here before, that just crossed the border to vote. I mean, like Keir Starmer, is that his name, from the UK government, the new prime minister? They're like, we have a solution to the immigration problem, the mass migration problem. We're just going to make them all citizens. Problem solved. Great. And of course, the women, they don't have a problem with that. I mean,
yeah, that is interesting.
They don't like getting catcalled on the street or getting like followed by foreign men that don't speak their language, they'll complain about that. But you see, that's not a problem of people with vastly different cultures and different religions and different ideologies that are not at all compatible with the West. No. The problem is that those are men. So so that's the problem, right? So we just got to do something about all the men. And then basically we're going to treat the men from third world countries the same way as we do our own native born men. They're all men at the end of the day, and that's literally what's happening in the UK and will happen in France. So
okay, I just wanted to say, when you spoke about women just sort of extending the vote to more and more groups of people instead of thinking about how you need to use the vote in order to preserve and maintain society and serve the system that serves us, it just occurred to me that this is actually a very feminine quality. They get a resource like the vote, and they want to bring it and distribute it to the people that they perceive who are in need. So if you think about it, the man brings home the mastodon, and the woman cuts it up and gives it all to all the kids and the elderly, all the vulnerable groups, right? And that's the way that they're approaching the vote, when the vote is by definition a responsibility to make sure that society is run in the right way, or in a way that's sustainable.
Yeah, they just think it's like they just got a bowl of candy and they're like, well, I can't have all this candy to myself. I'm going to share the candy.
Yeah,
but it's not candy. It's the future.
It's the future, but it's at the same time as it's like you are this is not a good idea. You know, there should be some kind of way of saying, well, this person should have a say in the state. This person maybe shouldn't have a say in the state. And they want to get rid of all of the forms of merit, or at least the forms of constructing, not necessarily a hierarchy, but finding out if the person actually is invested in the state, or if they're going to import their wars into the state. They're going to see the state that we have as just another means for something else, like a tool to keep perpetuating their own vision, right? Mm-hmm. And we don't have anything like it, but any kind of qualification, any kind of merit, any kind of expectation, any kind of standard that you have to be held to, they want to break it all down. And they want to break it all down because they're thinking in terms of, we need to provide for the kids and the elderly and the vulnerable. And that's not bad in and of itself. It's just not the place for it. It's not.
It's not the sentiment. It's the action is irresponsible, and of course it is, because the consequences, they're very far removed from them in the immediate. Eventually there will be, and they'll be like, how did this happen? But like, they don't know when, like in the moment, they're just like, oh, I'm just being nice, right? So anyway, I got some things to read out that people shelled out their hard-earned cash for. So I'm going to read those out, and then we'll continue the video. Richard Bier gives us $5 and says, having women police the moral behavior of other women has more often than not had some undesirable outcomes. It either becomes the extreme of the Salem witch trials, or in modern times, that female HOA board member who will find the most trivial things to declare a violation of the HOA rules that she can harass the neighborhood over as an expression of her authority, so she becomes the female Eric Cartman, going about saying, respect my authority, and possibly whacking everyone in the shins with her police baton. Well, you can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs. I'm sorry, but you have to deal with those consequences. It seems to me that that's a worthy trade-off to preserve our civilization for like at least another 8 years. So, I mean, women could also stop being cunts and change their ways. That would be a solution. I am open to, like, we can table this discussion on women not being cunts, and then we'd be fine. But I mean, if they're gonna be, then we're gonna have to get women out here that are cuntier to be that way towards them so that they stop acting like cunts. This video will not be monetized. I'm sorry, Allison. Nova Fan 21 gives us $1 on Rumble.
Can I respond to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, all right. Well, there is that, but then there's also someone actually in our Discord, one of the patrons described this. There was a sort of a bus stop or a rest area where in his neighborhood where a whole bunch of homeless people congregated, and because they really had nowhere else to go. And every week, I think it was there was like a community center or something, there would be women complaining about it. Karen's complaining about the situation. And what ended up happening is one of the, I think, it might have been, I don't know what particular denomination she was. She might have been maybe even United or something, but there was an older woman who every day would go and bring them soup and sandwiches, the homeless people. And just by doing that, she managed to shut up dozens of Karens. Like they went, like all the complaints disappeared. Right?
Yeah.
The Karens were saying we need bylaws against these homeless people. And then so I asked the guy, okay, so what happened? Did they have a bylaw against homeless people and Mennonite women like feeding them? Or I don't know what she was. Maybe she was United, who knows? Or Christian women feeding them. And he's like, no, this woman shut them all up. So depending on how it's done, it doesn't have to be cunty. It's like, you can get men who use their greater physical strength, their focus on altruistic punishment, their higher level of risk tolerance for good things. And you can get them men who do it for bad things in different ways than women who do it for bad things, right? Same thing with women. You can get women who are judgmental, authoritarian, and then you can get women who understand things like using their service, their gratitude, and their compassion in ways that change the social landscape to the better. So it's just a situation where, yeah, it can be done badly, but I think it's not even a situation where, well, we can't let women do it. It's like women will do it. It will be women who do this, almost invariably. So the question is, do we have the means to make it less of column A cunty and more of column B compassion? And how do we develop that? And constantly blaming men is just basically saying, I'm not going to deal with the problem. So, all right,
let's play more of the video. Here we go.
And I'm like, well, look, it's interesting. Maybe what's happening needs to happen. This is natural selection.
Yeah.
A society has emerged because men became weaker and weaker. They could not provide for what women wanted, and they could not provide stability in social order. And
okay, but
now you
the
have
examples you're saying is men have not controlled women. So what you're saying is men were too weak; they did not control women. Women created this. That's men's fault. Are you prepared to give men the the authority to enact their control? Are you prepared to support men? Like, I mean, I didn't realize that Tim Pool had become an extreme conservative. Like,
That
I mean,
does
I'm
sound
talking
like
about
super, like,
that talk about
super,
fundamentalist
like,
conservative.
yeah,
That's like,
it does,
like
doesn't it?
he's not even like, you know, a sort of a casual Muslim. He's like he's going speed running into like fundamentalist, you know, center of the desert Islam.
Jeez.
Like,
Tim Pool, peace be upon him.
yeah, it's, but what are you saying? Are you saying, if you're going to say men are responsible for not establishing these boundaries, are you saying that men should have the authority to do so? Right? Should men claim the authority to, like, this guy, if you think about it, if you look at the negative space that Tim Pool is constructing, he's like a super Andrew Tate. Like, if you think, like, how is this different than
I don't think Andrew Tate would even have said that, honestly. I don't. I think I haven't seen anything, so I think he's beyond that. He's beyond that.
you understand this when you stop just hearing men are responsible and you start hearing, well, this is the authority that men should have. Because, like,
Yeah.
just hear it when he's saying these things. Let's keep going.
All right, I forgot to read the Rumble rant from before.
And you know
Nova
what?
fan. Yeah,
I
go
should
ahead.
do a shout out. Okay, yeah, Richard.
Let me do the Nova fan, because he sent it a while ago. So he gave us $1. Thank you, Nova fan. Says, the only men I blame are the ones who defend evil women's actions when good men try to hold women accountable. I do not blame men for withdrawing from this dysfunctional society. Yeah, I mean, I think that Tim could, because I would agree that male weakness exists, and male weakness in positions of authority that bend the knee to women is a problem. But the problem is that Tim is he's blaming the wrong group of men. I think the men who are online that are talking about this stuff, I think they're frustrated and angry, and they have every right to be. I think that people like panicking and getting all like in their feelings when they find that there are men who have negative emotions because of the way they've been treated for like their entire life. I think they need to get a life and grow a spine. Those people, not the men. And maybe the men that you should be calling weak are these male feminists in tremendous positions of power that are basically like saying we should just give everything up. Maybe the men in the United Nations, maybe the men at the World Economic Forum, right? Maybe the men who like run these universities, maybe the men in media positions, maybe the men who you know, like the guy who directed the Ghostbusters remake or something, like those men.
I'm gonna say something. All right.
Okay.
So I've been reading this book. It's called Manhood in the Making. Cultural Concepts of Masculinity. And one of the conclusions of this book is that a critical and almost universal quality of manhood is generosity, right? Big men, like the big men of Papua New Guinea, they're very generous. They are able to coordinate lots of things, to have big generous parties and give things to the people who support them. So a man is seen as being a big man when he's able to give a lot, and he's able to produce a lot and give a lot. And I mean, and that's more like in the economic level. They also have them like a military component, but there's this quality of generosity and sacrifice to manhood throughout the world, right? Now, what Tim Pool is saying is that in our culture, well, first of all, let me frame that before I get into exactly what he's saying. In our cultural concept, rights are seen as things that men give women, rights and freedoms. So if you're going to be a generous man, you give women lots of rights and freedoms. You give women services. You give women all of these things. That's being a big man in our society, is giving women everything they ask for, whether it be freedoms, whether it be welfare, whether it be services, because, you know, you have this very idea of lower class men being brutish, whatever. That's being a big man in our society. So what Tim is saying is that the end result of all of these big men being big men is weakness. And it's like, no, the problem is our conception of what a big man is. In our society, a big man allows his woman to do whatever she wants. A big man is able to fund whatever lifestyle she desires. A big man pays the bill for her 18 friends when she goes out on her birthday. A big man gives women whatever rights they want. A big man steps up and champions all of this female only scholarships and DIE initiatives. A big man advocates for all of the monolithic infant classes that women identify. That's what a big man is in our society. And he's saying that that's weak. Well, but in many ways, women define what generosity is in men. And so, it's like the fact that men are responding to how women have defined what a big man is and what generosity is in men, is that really on men? And the other thing is if he's going to say that a man who is generous in this way is a weak man, what is he saying a strong man is? Is a strong man a man who denies women their rights? Is a strong man a man who takes away welfare? Is a strong man a man who refuses to give women only bursaries and scholarships? Is a strong man a man who squelches all DEI? Is a strong man a man who punches smartphones out of the hands of women in as he goes down New York Street? Is this a strong man? Like, because okay, all right, I'll step off my soapbox because I've said quite a bit. I just want to remind everyone to send your super chows through feedthebadger.com/justtip too, because I know it's hump day and nobody wants to do anything or think. We just all want to sit here in a puddle of inert goo. But please do send those super chows. Feedthebadger.com.
Hump day.
Hump day.
Hump day. Mike. Okay, I got another super chow from Richard Bier for $5. And he says, it is far easier to get a redneck to not keep looking at that bass boat with the glitter finish clear coat at the Bass Pro Shop or Cabela's than it would be to convince these modern enlightened women to not be abject C words. I don't want to say it.
See you next Tuesdays.
See you next Tuesdays. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, let's play some more of this. My pointer, I lost it.
Have these fractured systems where young men sit around complaining on the internet, removing themselves from the dating pool, complaining they can't get in. Meanwhile, I know dudes who are swimming in women and they're short and they're wealthy because these guys are like, here are the cards I'm holding in my hand. I am going to figure out how to maximize my capabilities with this. If you look at the
You're weak, bro.
It's funny. He's like, yeah, just be rich.
Just be rich.
Just be rich, guys. What are you doing?
Okay,
Why are you
but
so
here's
weak?
the problem. Here's the problem. When all the men are rich is the average, and then we're back to square one.
Yeah, then we're back to women going, I think I can do better.
Yes.
So
somehow men have to be able to metaphorically slap the smartphone out of the woman's hands. And that is I think I could do better. Somehow. And the funny thing is that a lot of this isn't even men. Like, it isn't even really about men. I mean, he's really focused on it because he wants to blame them. And I think it's mostly because he just wants to deflect this problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I'm trying to look at it in the context of the broader conversation. And so you have Alex Stein, who's like super blue pill conservative guy. It's like, well, I think women should be able to do whatever, it's fine. And then you have like Rachel Wilson, who's like a hardcore patriarchist. That's what she calls herself. So she's like, we need a patriarchy, right? Not the feminist definition, but her definition. And then there's another woman who's kind of like, middle ground, doesn't really have a strong opinion about anything. And I think Tim is trying to match Rachel Wilson's energy in the opposite direction so that it fosters a more energized discussion. But he seems to believe what he says a lot. So it's not like he's just making shit up to be contrarian. That's what I think. So yeah, he's like fighting with a straw man, honestly. Because I mean, Rachel's not making any of these claims either, So But were you? I'm sorry.
We
were you
don't
saying
have
something?
to say that women are to blame for everything, but can they be to blame for what they are to blame for?
Yeah.
Like-
Right.
like
Can we?
The thing is that I'm like, I had this exchange. I don't even think it was a feminist. I think it might have been a conservative. And I was like, okay, so we have blamed men for how long? Can we blame women for something? And he's like, well, we get nothing out of blaming an entire sex. I'm like, so we'll just continue to blame men then? He's like, yes. No self freaking awareness whatsoever. Oh man.
All right, I got a super chat. Thank you to.
We
Hold on, let
can't
me put this in.
blame the genders. That's why we have to continue to blame men. We can't. It's
do
not
that.
fair to blame everybody in a gender. That's why we got to continue to blame men. I
Yep.
swear.
I
Okay.
know. All right. The Chaos One X gave us $2 and says, "Women most affected. Women most affected." That's right. It's a self-perpetuating cycle. When women are affected, they are in fact affected, which means that they are in due course affected, and it never ends. It's like if you take a slice of bread and you put butter on one side and you wrap it around a cat and you have the butter facing up and the cat's standing and you throw it, it'll spin because cats always land on their feet and buttered bread always lands face down. It'll spin, it'll spin infinitely. This is what the effect of women most affected is. It's a never ending loop. All right, but anyway, let's play the video.
A lot of these channels like to highlight these dating apps where women, they only want the top 20th percentile of attractive men. And so that means 80% of men are just out of the dating pool. And I look at that and I'm like, sucks for you, I guess, dude. I don't know how many times you got to read Jordan Peterson's book to figure out you don't just get to exist and get a woman.
Oh, good Lord.
Wait, but don't women just get to exist?
Well, no, it's equality.
You know, like 80% of men, and by the way, that plenty of fish thing, that's just the percentage of men that get a date. That's not necessarily the percentage of men that get a relationship. Not that I think they should be doing it on dating sites.
All right. So, from my view of history, societies work when they get the most amount of their young men invested in them, usually by getting them prospects in terms of relationships. And when they start to fail is when young men cease to have prospects because they don't have in place what is necessary to have families, to feed their families, etc. So, for example, the economic changes in Rome, in which the average man no longer really had any potential of having his own land and being a farmer, because he was competing against mega farms run by, owned by very, very rich families and basically run by slaves, right? Okay. When that happens, a society starts to deteriorate. So when a society no longer is capable of making the average man attractive to the average woman, it's done for. And what he's saying is that he's just putting the blame on men. He's putting on the blame on men and not putting it on the fact that our system has no longer providing the one thing that keeps a society alive, which is young men's connection to it. And it's like, well, you can say, well, men don't earn it because they're weak and whatever else. But it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, all of these men are going to eventually have to go somewhere else. Right? They're going to have to go with whatever will make them attractive. Or we won't fix this problem and it'll be the death of the human race. And I mean, yes, I guess to some degree, men have to go out and figure out this new thing that's going to make them attractive. But at the same time, is that, blaming men for the destruction of everything that made them attractive. It's like society is, a peacock's tail. Society is, men invest in it because it gives them the peacock's tail, right? That's where they invest in the work of building society because in exchange, they become attractive to women. And our society is ceasing to do that. And eventually it's going to crumble because of that. And we either figure out, once again, how to make men attractive to women as a people, and we can start by getting rid of the nonsense and lies about men. That might be a good place. Like, stop shooting ourselves in the foot. See what falls out then, get rid of the whole men oppress women narrative. And the funny thing is that whole narrative at its core, at its kernel, is the recognition that men have to bring something to the table. They have to have some power, some ability, some authority, something more than women, or women are not interested in them. And if they're not getting it from the society, then the society is not long for the world. So you can point to all these men who are not living up to the standard, whatever that is, and say, well, you're weak. But how are they supposed to? Like we talked about how if all these men become rich, well, the top 20% remains the top 20%. Women are going after the top 20%, and they're not doing so because the lower 80% is necessarily bad. They're going after the top 20% because that's what all the other women are going after. That's what has the social proof. And that is it's a function of intersectional competition among women. Again, like I said earlier, it doesn't really have anything to do with men, because if we're in a situation where this is a problem with women, right? If Tim was poor or average in terms of his income, he would have the same problem. And the problem is that women want a man who will make her girlfriends jealous. Right? And that is not the average man. And nor would it ever have been the average man, because previous societies kept that in check. They kept the female-female intersexual competition in check. And and women weren't making decisions based on it. So now you have to be in the top 20%. And even if that 80% suddenly got up above the bar of the top 20%, that wouldn't be good enough, because immediately the bar would raise to the top 20% again, because what they're after isn't what the features of the top 20% of men. What they're after is the fact that the top 20% of men each have 5 women after them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the social proof. It's the relationship between the women that they're after. Like it's the fact that they have other women after them that they're after. Well, how can that ever how is it an average man supposed to do anything in that circumstance? Even if he becomes ripped like Chris Williamson, or no, not Chris.
Chris Williamson's pretty ripped.
Okay, fair enough. We'll go with that. I made a mistake, but he probably is.
He's shredded up like a julienne salad.
Like even if the whole 80% of men that is subpar allegedly got ripped, got money, got the Bugatti, got all of this other shit, and became the same identical to the top 20%, being ripped by Chris Williamson wouldn't be enough. You'd have to be ripped like Chris Helmsworth. You'd have to be as rich as Bill Gates. You'd have to, it just goes up, because again, it is not the objective standard. It is the subjective. How many other women are after this guy that these women are after? And that is always a moving target. And you can't build a society on a moving target like that. So there's nothing men can do. Oh, I hate saying that. Oh God, I feel really bad.
No, I mean it's just that, and the other thing too is
I'm saying that having a relationship, you have a relationship, everybody here has relationships, and it's really difficult to say this is not a situation that works, and it's not a situation that men can change, because that means that they can't, many guys are not going to be able to do anything. The only thing we can do is to shame women out of this situation, and we've removed all of the pillars that prevented this kind of toxic intersexual competition, where women now want a partner who makes her friends jealous, want a partner who has 5 women after them, but only is invested in them somehow, because everything is now about women's competition with each other. And honestly, I think that one of the more destructive aspects of this is I think a lot of women would prefer to destroy, like, if they're all going after the top men, those top men have women who are sort of roughly equivalent to their value generally, right? I think a lot of solid sixes actually take some Schadenfreude, some delight in ruining the prospective chances of the nines and tens by being a side piece. No. And I mean, there's a dark aspect to it. It's a dark, jealous, competitive aspect to the feminine, and we don't want to talk about it. And how are men, like, in certain aspects of women's sociality and their strength, it's not that men are weak or strong. They're just not playing the game at all. They're not even in the same dimension. Like, they just sort of exist elsewhere. And they don't even see, like, a lot of men don't even see what's going on with women. They don't see it. So it's not that men are strong or weak when it comes to female intersectional competition. It's that they have no effect on it whatsoever except being the objects of it.
Yeah.
And we got rid of everything that kept it in check. Monogamy, shaming promiscuity, shaming out of wedlock birth, not giving birth control. And we got rid of everything that controlled women's intersectional competition with each other, which incidentally also ruins their relationships with each other. Which is why you see those women. Remember that one girl who was just like, I can't have, and she was at the point of tears when she said this. Remember we were responding to Hannah Cox, and there was this one woman, and she was talking about how she can't be friends with women because they're constantly backstabbing, and everything is about a competition and all of this other stuff, and it's all very like passive aggressive and it's toxic. And she was almost at the point of tears. And Hannah Cox would like just called her out as a pick me because she was not complaining about women in the way that Hannah Cox does. So, I mean, but that's the thing. It ruins women's relationships with each other. And it ruins women's relationships with men. And it's like, and people get less and less happy. And again, it has nothing to do with men's strength or weakness. It's like, I don't know. I'll think of a proper analogy, but let's.
I think we follow. So
yeah, okay.
I got a Super Chow from Greed Endures. I don't know if I missed one from before, and he gives us $10 and says, "Economics is the reason why we have these so-called weak men and their supposed failure to woo the women's and launch a new generation of toxic men children with their men flu. Here, have some rocks to throw at them. Money cannot buy female happiness, but with some hardship, you can sell right next to it or something. Oh damn! I think your princess just sailed behind the horizon, sir. Hardship some more." All right, thanks. And I will say I don't appreciate Tim's framing of these men as like losers, because like most men have jobs probably, and they may even have jobs that are good enough for them, but they're still not good enough for women. And I think that's important, because like men don't need anything really. They can live on the bare minimum and be happy, but they're not going to attract women. I know a guy goes to my church. He's like huge guy, like 6'6", 6'8". He could be in a football team, just a giant man. And he's a garbage man, and he's alone. He's single. And garbage men make good money, and he's doing well, and he's tall. He's not terrible to look at. He's still pretty young, but you see his job, despite how well it pays, it's not very high status. It's not very glamorous. So he doesn't do well with women. And he's struggling. Like he was like, he didn't confide in me or anything like that, but he did say, I remember asking him, like, "Hey, how you doing? Like, are you having a good day?" And he's like, "I guess I'm a garbage man." Like, that was like his opening line. I was like, "Dude, we need garbage men." Like, well, we'd be standing in filth if it weren't for you. Like, what are you talking? I was like, "Look, your job is really important. I know it doesn't get talked about a lot. It's not something that we celebrate, but dude, like, this is the backbone of our society. Like,
can I be really blunt?
Yeah, go ahead.
Garbage man's job is more important than Tim's.
Absolutely.
It's more important, and I think to a degree, I would say it's more important than ours, but we are actually advocating for telling that to garbage men.
Yeah,
So
I'm
maybe not.
advocating for the garbage men. I'm telling you.
Yeah. So I mean, ultimately, like the concept of what we do is less important. It will always will be. Like there are certain jobs that are absolutely necessary for the comfort of humanity, and they get no respect, none whatsoever. And they certainly don't get any respect from women. Unless, you're a woman who does these kinds of things, then for whatever reason, women who do those kinds of things tend to respect men who do them too. But yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
We're
all right. Let's play more of the video.
Yeah, we're lagging, friends.
Yeah, we're lagging a bit. Okay, I'm gonna play it now.
Like, there was one I was watching. I'm gonna shout him out, Homath, because credit goes to him, despite the fact I'm being right.
I like his work. That's what I'm saying.
He shows the 10 through 1 men and women, and how women go up. A woman who is a 1 wants a man who's a 4.
Right.
And I'm like, well, first of all, I don't think a woman who's a 1 is getting anybody. And like,
I beg to differ. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There are very, let's say, conventionally unattractive women that have men. Like women could be a 1 and get a man. But you tell me, chat, do you think a 1, if you're a woman and you're a 1, could you find a man? I mean, even if it's just like, I don't know, one night stand or something, But I think men are generally more open-minded, let's say.
But there's men who are 2s who probably would take a 1. Let's be frank.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I don't know where, and are there no 1s, male 1s in his analysis? Like,
nah, I think Homath's graph does include the men too. It has like it draws lines both ways. Men generally are more, like they're more reasonable. Like they go for generally a cross or even a little down. They're okay with that. So, but anyway.
That's not true.
Do.
Wait. I have to cut you off, Tim.
Yeah,
Because
they shockingly
if you've watched
do.
Let me make this point. If you've ever watched My 600-Pound Life, there's literally 600-pound women. They always have a boyfriend.
No.
They always have a boyfriend on that
see,
show.
a 600-pound woman is like a 4.
What is a 1, like a burn victim?
Yeah.
No.
You mean
Still has a boyfriend though. Still has a boyfriend.
Yeah, but woman with 2 heads.
Gorlock is a 10. They told me so. Okay.
Okay.
I see people in the chat mention Gorlock. That's a 10. Sorry, guys.
I want to say that, like a burn victim, like the person that she just directed at. I love the look of utter skepticism and annoyance on her face. I don't know this woman, but I wish to know more of what she has to say. What did she have anything sensible to say?
She doesn't really have a strong position on much of anything. I think she's like an accidental influencer. So okay. I don't know, but I'll play more of the video.
Sure.
Burn victims can be 9s. For real? Like being subjected to a horrific accident doesn't reduce your value.
Yeah, I know.
How much do they spend discussing this retarded element of?
I think they get past it pretty quick.
Okay, all right.
I think they get past it pretty quick.
I'll shut up. Let them get past it.
All right.
Wise, like,
Yeah, we're talking about looks, aren't we?
are we?
We do the
No,
one to
no,
10.
no.
How do you rate?
Oh, you're doing
Dating-
total
dating-
value.
Okay.
Yeah, total marketing,
Okay.
total dating value. So women have babies.
Mhm.
That means it's very, very hard to be a 1 woman.
Oh, that's true.
Right. So a 1 woman is like a barren, mentally deficient, limbless autist in a nursing home. And to be fair, there are men who will abuse.
Well,
that
wait a
poor
second.
creature. You know what I mean? Like,
Okay, what? Yeah, but how? Okay, Tim, the only way that men could conceivably be responsible for the women's choices is if they are supposed to have authority and enact authority over women. But now you're saying the first thing you go to with the most vulnerable woman you can mention, you consider a 1, is that men abuse their authority over him. Why does this level of fuck get so much attention?
I don't know. Also worth pointing out that I think this is why this matters. What Tim is saying is that women are automatically above like a 4 because of the fact that they can bear children.
Does
And
that
this
mean that
is-
all
and this is-
women?
well, but this points to something that I don't know that he's going to acknowledge, and he must acknowledge, which is that women do have value inherent to them because they are women, but men do not. And that's what he said earlier. You don't deserve to be given value, right? Because you live in your mama's basement with Cheeto on your face or whatever. So what he's saying is that women are worth more than men, full stop. Because women have inherent value because they can bear children. Men only have value provided that they are, useful to us, essentially, which is like the oldest, thing that we've been saying. Like Chris Rock had it in his routine, right? When men are only valuable provided they can provide something, essentially.
Okay. What about when women go through menopause? Do they instantly become ones?
They become men. No, I don't know.
They suddenly are
Oh, and
ranked in the same.
by the way, this again, I don't think this is going to come up, but they should probably be wondering, well, if we're saying all of this shit about men, why is it then that men are transitioning to become women? Why would they do that? Why
Because
would
they
men
haven't
suddenly
immediately-
find that they found the cheat code and they're like, oh shit, if I do up, down, down, left, right, BA start and take some hormone blockers and cut off my penis, I can get some respect. And they do that.
I'm like, okay. So one of the big things that the red pill bros seem and everybody gets offended at is they point out that women hit the wall. Okay, but Tim has just explained what the wall is. Even if you are a quote unquote one as a woman, as long as you're fertile, you go up a couple notches in attractiveness. When you hit menopause, suddenly you are in the male situation, right?
Well, you're just
So
a
it
man
isn't-
with a bonus hole.
Yeah, you're just a man with a bonus hole. Maybe the red pill bros are just simply saying, hey, you're about to have our experience in a few decades. Maybe you should listen to us. Okay, but
All right.
I'm guessing Tim Pool would reject that. And I honestly, I think his characterization of men, what was he saying? He's men watching women, hating women or something?
Men who hate women watching
I'm sorry.
watching women get dunked on or something like that. They don't hate
Yeah.
women, by the way.
Yeah, but the thing is that they're dunking on stupid people. That's always going to be funny.
Who happen to be women.
Who happen to be women and who are stupid in a particularly feminine way. So like are you saying that people, and not just that, like a lot of them choose to be stupid. I'm not talking about dunking on people who are, like Down syndrome people who are making the most of their God-given gifts. These women are not making the most of their brains.
Down
There's
syndrome
nothing-
people are living their best life all the time.
Yeah, they're if these women had the same devotion to doing as much as they could as somebody with Down syndrome, they would be a hell of a lot smarter. So this is a chosen stupidity, and I believe that when somebody has chosen the path of stupidity, they should be mocked.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Woman.
All right, let's play more of the video.
So, even in that regard, but my point to home math was like, men are not ranked based on appearance. If you're a guy and you think that your number rating is based on appearance, you've not done any of the reading.
Right.
The Science of Sex documentary from a long time ago.
All right, I'm going to pause it here. We know this bit already. We already know that women, they select on appearance if it makes other women jealous, but it's not the only factor. But I think that he's doing another misrepresentation, though, of math.
This is total shit. Women 100% select on appearance. They may select on money if you're gonna die in 10 years and they're gonna get it. Like,
mm-hmm.
Does Tim Pool? I know this might be a little bit personal, but does he have a girlfriend now?
I think he does. That doesn't excuse anything, though.
Okay, let's just keep going.
All right, let's keep going.
They took pictures of 10, no, I think it was like 100 men and 100 women. And then they had people come in a lab and rate them on a scale of 1 to 10 for attractiveness. They then took those pictures out into the streets and said, here's a picture, went to a woman and said, here's a picture of a guy. How would you rate this guy on a scale of 1 to 10? Guess what? The tall guy in the flannel with the rugged good looks and the wavy hair, they were like 9, 10, ooh, 9. And then, you know what they did? They showed this frumpy, chubby guy with thin hair and glasses and, you know, ugly. And the women were like, ooh, 5, 4. Then they added biographies. They made the guy in the flannel a manager at a theater who made $35,000 a year. They made the fat guy a software engineer who made $500,000 a year. And guess what happened?
It flipped. Yeah.
It evened out.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden the frumpy ugly guy's a 6 or a 7. And it's like, you got to be kidding me. That ugly guy, well, he's rich.
Well, yeah, Tim. Women are materialistic, shallow. What do you want?
Okay, somebody, our great indoors just sent a super chow that we probably should address because he's
Yeah, I
saying
see.
that
He's
you're
saying that
echoing.
I'm echoing. Am I echoing for everybody else? Because I just listened to myself.
You can't tell for sure.
I can't. I mean, I'm listening to my own audio, and I don't know why it would sound this way. So let me just test. I mean, there's my air conditioner's on, and so there's like some background humming.
Yeah,
people are saying they
maybe.
don't hear. Some people are saying they don't hear an echo. You have a weird hum. Yeah, it's the air conditioner. Let me hold on a second. Look, we're going through a heat wave right now. I don't know if you know. It's like record high heats here. We're talking 100-degree weather. I'm just gonna change my noise gate a little bit and see if that helps. Maybe you won't hear it if I get it up to here. So
Sounds
how's
like we
this?
just need to deal with the air conditioning, otherwise Brian will melt.
They're saying the volume is good. I just changed the noise gate. So what it means is that you'll hear the humming anyway when my voice comes on, but it won't be when I'm not talking.
All right, I don't hear it at all.
Hopefully that's
I don't
okay.
know what
You
guys
don't hear it?
Yeah, but
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
don't
like a
understand.
sound autist.
Yeah, we have
Well,
some
I guess
sound
I am
autists.
slightly. I am slightly. Okay.
All right, how's
let's
this? Let me know if this is better. I just changed something. All right, let's play some more of the video.
He can provide. And so men get mad at women for being gold diggers. And I'm just like, that's the stupidest thing in the world.
Well, that's like what we were designed for. Like, these people, they always contradict themselves with their logic.
Yeah,
Like,
but
they want women to be a stay-at-home mom or whatever. But in order to do,
Go ahead.
well, I guess he's okay with just being valued for his money.
Well, let's go back, okay? So
No, let's not go back. This is so
okay.
shallow and boring. Let's just you know what? I'm not going to go back. Let's just keep going. I table my question. I withdraw it. Whatever. Let's just
reclaiming my time. Okay.
Yeah.
do that, you got to have somebody who at least can bring in enough money to make that possible. You know, like, I feel like women don't really care about, like, I don't really care about looks so much. You're just looking more for somebody who's competent. You feel like, okay, you're somebody I can actually trust. Like, you've got you've got it together. You can lead the family. And then somebody who has the
women are just
ability to
angels,
work.
huh? You know, it seems strange. You know, like earlier, Tim Pool was saying all the problems was because men let women do things. And now we're finding out that women are just angels.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, goodness. Why would men letting women do things make things worse when women are such angels? They don't have any shallow interests at all. They just want someone who's competent. Okay, this is not adding anything. Let's get through it. Sorry.
Or will work. It's
Right.
not really so much the money, it's the ability, will you go out and work? So I think throwing women under the bus for that is kind of stupid, because it's ultimately like biology forcing them to choose somebody based on, we think this person can allow me to stay at home and raise kids.
Yeah. There a lot of guys who...
If anything, it's traditional.
Right. A lot of guys who aren't going to do the work. I saw
Let
this
me
meme
tell you
on 4chan.
something. Let me tell you something. this is not traditional. Traditional homemaking was a 7 or 6 day a week, 12-hour a day job. And it involved the actual, like a huge amount of the economic worth of a family. What you're describing is not traditional. And nor is a modern stay-at-home wife, unless she's herself a homesteader, doing a traditional job. She's doing a job that's been made possible by in the Industrial Revolution and also her husband's labor. She's not even doing a job. It's basically a hobby. I'm sorry, that's what it is. And like this whole idea of men being totally and completely valued for their material goods is also very new, because women were expected to bring a dowry. They were expected to bring marketable skills to the relationship. We've only had this strange notion of a woman's being like basically not even a princess, because a princess still had to bring something. She had to bring relations, diplomacy, some kind of skill. But we've only had this idea that women bring nothing but their wombs to a relationship. It's only been around since the 50s. Like our ancestors would look at this like, what? The woman brings nothing to the marriage? Okay. So she doesn't even have the skills of a duchess? She just is a big zero? They would be baffled by that. And she would have no marriage prospects. Like, this is the funny thing. They're talking about, oh, tradition, women wombs, they're all +1. No, these women with no marriage these would be women with no marriage prospects. The women today, if we sent them back in time, would be women with no marriage prospects. They'd have to go get an apprenticeship as like a metalsmith or something, like a pewter smith. Like, and everybody's like, oh, but it's tradition. This isn't traditional. Okay. And that, like, the traditional that people are talking about is not traditional. This is not traditional. It is a construct from Hollywood and advertising from the 50s. This idea that men's generosity, that the way that they express it is by giving women incredible leisure time, that itself is a very new concept. It's only like 3 generations old. Before then, our traditional ancestors would be like, bitch, please work. Go plow the field. Go slop the hogs. Go make some cloth. You know, go invade Brittany. Shut up and do something, because you're not sitting on your ass. You're a big fat fucking zero, lady. Okay, let's keep going.
All right. Let me know how this sounds, okay? I just changed some settings around. So, all right, playing the video.
A viral 4chan meme, green text memes, if you've ever seen them. And it was a picture of that, was it Hamish and Andy? I think the comedians were, I'm not sure. But you remember that one, Alex, where they're like, are we the baddies?
Yeah,
the
of
Nazis?
course, yeah.
It was that picture. And then he's like, my friend came and started complaining about this girl. He started saying, like, you know, she has been like, she's like a gold digger. She's snooty. She's elitist. He asked her out and she refused. And she decided to date some loser guy. And then he was like, oh, wow. He's like, yeah, I hear that a lot. So he says, I decided to look up who this guy was. And he's like, he's an athlete. He's fit. He's 6 feet tall. He works at a charity helping children. And then he was like, my friend is obese, lazy, doesn't want to go to work, won't wash himself. And he was like, I think we're the bad guys. Like, yeah.
What?
Like,
how is he supposed to change to 6 foot tall or athletics? Because athletics has also got a genetic component too.
I mean,
right, well,
also,
whatever.
what's the use in bringing up like the most extreme examples? Like the average guy, again, that
He's
is not
average.
attractive to the average girl, has a job, probably drives a car, probably can afford to like sustain himself, probably bathes, like probably does all of those basic things, and he's still alone. So like, why are we like choosing the worst examples and saying this is what's wrong with men instead of looking at what the overwhelming majority of men are doing, like keeping things running and saying, gosh, women sure have high standards. Like that's where the disconnect is at, dude. Garbage men can't find women. Guys who work in sewers can't find women. Guys who
And Brian means
they-
garbage men, as in the ones who pick up your trash, Tim.
Yeah,
Like not
like the guys
garbage
who
men.
pave the roads, like the guys who work on the railroad, like the guys who drive the buses.
Mhm.
Like I mean, like regular guys. They work in retail. They work at Home Depot. They work at GameStop. Whatever. We're not. You're like using this extreme example, and even then, I would table the question. Okay, why have those men turned out that way? Where did they get? Like, where do men model their behavior when it comes to what their good decisions or bad decisions? Okay, who influenced that man's life to put him in that position? Like, I'm not saying it's not his fault. I'm saying, but these things don't happen in a vacuum, right? So, like, what happened to that guy? What's his story? Did he know his father? Did he have siblings? Was his mother supportive? Was she overbearing? Was she devouring? Was she abusive? Like, what happened? You know what I'm
what
saying?
happened?
Like, it's not just like, why are they losers? I mean, like, this is like the oldest
But the other thing is that
conversation.
he's even explaining in his own analysis, like, Tim, are all of the men who are like 1 to 4, while all women start at 4, like, are they losers because of why? Because they just don't have a womb? Like, okay, so you're already like, he's already starting women at 4, basically. So women,
Mhm.
every single woman is a 4 at the bare minimum. Bare minimum. Every woman is a 4. So all the men who are 4 or lower, are they just automatically losers? Why? Because they're unattractive? Like, he's already saying that just by existing, women deserve better than the average man. And then he's saying, well, the average man isn't living up. Well, the average man is average, right? Like, what else is he supposed to be? What else? And what are those 4 or under supposed to do? Are they just weak men? Like, should we have another freaking war and just throw them into a meat grinder?
Yeah.
This is just like, it's, I mean, he's basically saying that, I mean, he doesn't even need to use this extreme example. He can just use his own thing that he said, because he's categorized every woman as a 4 or above, basically. And there's a good portion of men who are 4 or less, who are have completely no prospects. And he's saying, well, get better, right? Yeah, but once they get up to the average, I mean, then the average goes up again. And the problem with the average man is not what he is, what he's earning, what he looks like, how athletic he is, or whether or not he's exercises or slim. The problem with the average man is that he's average. And you can't change that. Nobody can change that.
The problem with average men is that they are average.
Okay. And the problem with below average men is they're not even average.
They're not even men. They're not people.
Even men. They're not even people. And this is infuriating. Like, he even recognizes that dynamic exists. You know, and the thing is that a woman, okay, so because women are automatically 4 and above, they're always going to want to have men who are even more higher. They're going to look at an average man as being a 1. So anyway, let's keep going.
All right.
Evolutionary biology and psychology. Women want to
Bullshit.
find a guy who's going to protect them from.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm gonna-
you're
Go ahead.
that noise gate is really weird, because I can really hear like a ver now.
I'm sorry. I'm out to. I don't know. It's just hot. I don't know what to tell you.
Okay, all right, we're just gonna have to deal with it, folks.
I'm sorry. Okay. I'm gonna
Let's
hit play now.
From a bear. Are you that guy?
Well, I
Wait,
think
what?
the problem
Wait,
we have
what?
now
What?
is
What? Go back. Now we can go back. What was that a reference to the bear meme?
Let's listen to it again. I don't think we have the full context.
No.
Women
Oh,
want
yeah.
to find a guy who's going to protect them from a bear. Are you that guy?
well, I think the problem we
are
have
you-
now
are
is that's
you,
great.
Well, yeah. I mean, he has guns, so he probably could. But again, there
mean,
is an
honestly,
expectation
is
of male
this-
sacrifice there, right?
Is this an analysis of the dating situation, or is this Tim Pool alpha on top of all reproductive hierarchies? Like
The Big Lobster.
the big, yeah. Is this lobstering or is this discussion?
All right.
Okay.
Let's play some more.
I think the problem we have now is that's great if women do have, like Lily said, the intention of being moms, having kids, and they want a man to provide because they're going to have a family. But the issue we've run into now is that that's not what most women want to do. The average woman is having like 1.6 children now. The average first age they have a baby is like 30 or 31.
What's the average body count, Rachel? You probably know.
It varies so much depending on what surveys you look at. It could be like, some of them say like 8, some of them say a lot higher. I think it's probably higher because
It's higher.
They're all
they
lying.
lie.
Yeah.
They
They're all
lie.
lying.
We all know that they lie. So I don't know about the body count, but it's just like, if women wanted those things from men because for the purpose of having a family, I think that's fine. But sadly, they don't seem to want to do that. So now or they wait until they're like 35 and they're like, well, now I want to have a child. And as a result, the United States for the first time has a rising maternal mortality rate due to the advanced age of first pregnancy and pregnancies in general. So it's like, we're kind of at this
Is
weird
that the only
impasse
thing, though?
where
Is that the only reason why maternal mortality is going up? Okay, I think we're skirting one of the untouchable subjects. So
Oh yeah, I think I know. I was wondering if that's what you were going with that, but yeah.
yeah, but
So
let's just keep skirting. Okay.
yeah, we'll just keep skirting. But I will say at least Rachel mentions that women are a part of the problem here, because Tim is like, why aren't you're not getting all these, these trad women that are going to make you all these babies because you're not living up. And Rachel's like, yeah, but women aren't exactly being that way. They're kind of garbage right now. They're the kind of garbage but they're also garbage that they don't want garbage men dealing with. So like we're talking about like multiple degrees removed from trash, so much trash that the trash men are not allowed to touch it. So anyway, let's play some more.
if women want men for resources, but you're also a career boss babe who has her own money and you got your own bag and you don't need a man for anything, then you can see why dating isn't working for people.
We should teach the history of Sparta in our home schools.
Or just watch the movie Idiocracy. Everybody's seen. Have you seen that movie?
Well, of course.
At the very beginning, why everybody's getting stupid
Why
because all the
did he
idiots.
even address that?
Address what?
Well, did he even address what she said? He's just like, oh, let's teach Sparta.
Well, I think he's going to explain that. He goes into the Spartans. So you might take some. It's a bit Rome adjacent. So maybe this will like get your fire going. But they do talk a little bit about. Well, I know, but this is a good chance for you to refute the Spartans. So, all right, let's play it. And I mean, Alex Stein is so like basic, mid-wit levels. I mean, yeah, he is really. But we'll after he's done.
Just having babies, and then the people that are smart and that don't want to waste their money only have one baby, and that's literally what's happening in society today. And it's just Venezuelan immigrants are having like 10 kids to come up to the border, and Tim and I would not have 10 kids.
You know what they did in Sparta, right? Do you guys know about what they did in Sparta?
With the babies, how they would like.
Pausing for the okay.
Oh, I don't know. I've heard that they would leave the baby out for 24 hours, and if it died, it deserved to die.
Yeah.
They're like, it was not strong. Yeah.
Wow.
They would just like leave it and walk away. But I'm not saying do that. The only way to get a headstone on your grave.
I mean, like these days, we don't even do that. We just kill them. Women just throw them in the dumpster, pull them out after prom. And if the baby survives in the dumpster overnight, that's a strong
You
baby.
get adopted.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, he's acting like this is completely absurd, but women totally do that. Like they do this today in America, in the West. But okay, let's play some more.
If you were a man, was to die in battle, and if you were a woman, was to die in childbirth. And the reason I bring that up is not that we should literally follow that, but it's to show how a society valued having children. Mm-hmm. Women were seen as heroic warriors for having children. Yeah. Men were worthless unless they died fighting to protect their families. Mm-hmm. And then what we have now is I blame men because
Tim, Sparta was a horrific slave state. The reason why they did that was because they were in constant fear of a slave rebellion. And essentially, they were part of a society in which if you were subjugated militarily, you lost your right to consider yourself a human being and became livestock. Let us not take a page out of Sparta's history. We don't want to go back there.
Yeah. Yeah. I
But-
think I
but
want to
I'm
watch
sure-
300 after this, though, just because it's funny.
Okay, let's listen.
All right.
I think you said this last time you were on the show that equality. You said something like equality is the choice of men. If at any point men decided, do you elaborate on that?
Yeah, because men have the monopoly on force. Any notion of women's rights is going to have to be enforced by men. So any illusion we have that women have rights is men saying, yes, we'll go ahead and enforce those rights for you. And you're right. I mean, if you read my book, it was like progressive era industrialist men who tend to be like your beta type of
Gay
guys.
men is what you're trying to say.
Are you telling me that
they
those
tend to
men-
be so like
So the richest men on earth created this situation and they were weak, but also the men who weren't able to oppose the richest men on earth were also weak. What the hell were they supposed to do? Like, yeah, and the thing is that it's a big man thing. It's the whole idea that manhood is defined by generosity. Those rich industrialists wanted to feel like big men, so they gave women all rights and welfare and all this other stuff. Like they gave women stuff. That's the problem is in how we define masculinity in terms of generosity towards women. But that is something that's so baked in, like it's every culture that does that defines men in terms of sacrifice and generosity. Well, I guess we can challenge that, but we don't do it by continuing to define men in terms of generosity and strength. Like we have to figure something else out. Okay, let's
Yeah.
keep going. And also
right,
I would take issue. I think that women have a social power. It's not just that men give things to women. It's that men there's an element to men where there's an instinct to do so, and I think it does have to do with like the whole giving birth thing. There's an instinct to provide for women because we have that extended period of vulnerability that women have, and if men didn't have that instinct, we wouldn't have survived. So I think there is an instinct to give crap to women. It's just, and which is why almost every society on earth has an idea of manhood that's based on generosity and sacrifice, right?
Yep.
So I mean, but the question is, if you don't like the results of men's generosity and sacrifice, and honestly that's not weakness, it's how they express their strength. If you don't like that, how do we really change it? Do you really change it by saying that these men are weak, or men who were unable to oppose them are weak? Or do we change it by saying, hey, ladies, maybe don't define male generosity in these terms? Okay.
Okay. We got a couple Super Chows. You want to read those?
You want me to read them?
Yeah. Why not? I'll put them on the screen. Richard Bier gave us $5. Do you have it in
Okay.
front of you, or do you want me to just do it?
I can do it. Richard Bier gives us $5. Finding a relationship partner at Home Depot is a myth. There was that TikTok girl who was handing out her relationship resume at a Home Depot and didn't gain any traction. There are more TikTok videos of women going into a Home Depot looking for a potential husband and coming up dry. So the husband material isn't even on the employee payroll there.
Then we got
Oh.
one from Great Indoors.
Great Indoors. Tim, $10. Tim, don't try to figure out women. Bears figured out women and they eat them with fava beans and a nice Chianti. Okay, that was good.
All right, let's play some more.
Yeah, let's get this over with.
We're almost done. We're almost done.
think of Bill Gates, right? Not the most alpha dude, but very smart, became very successful and wealthy and rich. And it becomes Revenge of the Nerds to a certain degree, I think, where it's like for that type of guy, it's advantageous to have women's liberation because that's how those guys, at least they thought, we're going to get this sex with no strings attached if we do this sexual liberation stuff. And what they are finding out is that's not the good deal that they thought it was.
But for a lot of guys, it is. For the
Sure.
for the top 20th percentile,
yeah,
they're getting free sex whenever they want with no responsibility. And like feminism has greatly benefited like a lot of guys, like the top 20%.
No, that's a minority of guys. That's a very, and it's smaller than that. And plus, this all presumes that the top 20% of guys are interested in one night stands with lots of different women. There's probably a lot of guys in that top percentile that only want like one, they want to be in a monogamous relationship. So you're looking at a fraction within a fraction, and it's still a minority, a very small minority of men. So it's not really a lot of guys. That's like kind of a equivocation that doesn't mean anything, because there are 80% of guys, I mean, by your metric, with nothing. And that could be a problem.
Don't you think? Yeah, but okay, so could you go back a little bit so I can hear what he had to say again? Because I think I want to answer to it.
All right.
Sex whenever they want with no responsibility. And like feminism has greatly benefited.
Okay, all right. Like so the top, so he's admitting that women are having sex with the top 20% of guys. Well, okay. If you want to scrub out the bottom 80%, that's what's going to happen. If you want to give women the right to just completely, or if women want the right to completely scrub out the 80%, the lower 80%, guess what happens? The top 20%, or at least the part of the top 20% that's willing to live that way, is going to get a lot of sex, and you all are going to be competing over them. The end. Like, and then you, Tim, will call all the women, all the men who aren't in the top 10, 20%, which is impossible. It is a statistical impossibility for every man to be in the top 20% of men. It's possible. Okay. You're going to say every man who isn't is weak. You know, get good, scrub. Well,
sounds like a skill issue.
Yeah. But this is, do you get what I'm saying? It's like,
yeah.
It's just, there's something wrong with this logic. It's flawed. It's deeply flawed. And I'm trying to put my finger on it. Okay, keep going.
All right.
The guys, like the top 20%.
Yeah.
Now they can sit around all day doing nothing while women go work and produce value and do labor, come back, preach about how liberated they are, give the guy free sex, and then the guy says, why buy the cow when you get the milk for free?
Ironic, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but this is the thing. Like, if you want only the top 20, if you want to make a situation where women are selecting out the lower 80%, then they're left with the top 20%, which means like they're not going to get relationships. Like, literally, this situation means women are not going to get relationships, period. You just don't get that. You're not going to have a relationship, right? So, and we're all okay with that because women should have the right to just not choose the lower 80%, right? They should have the right, absolute right to go through the top 10, 20%, because those are the only men that matter, because they have made the effort to become attractive, according to Tim. They're not the weak men. All right.
Yeah, but if all men raised their standards and they all like rose to the occasion and became greater, then guess what? Women will
still go after
top 10% of those guys.
Yeah,
and
the
then,
top 20%.
And then the men below that will have to step up again.
Yeah.
So
it's like, but that the cost of that is that women don't get relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you want a relationship, if you're a woman, if you want an actual relationship, then you can't scrub out 80% of men, period. That's the dividing line. It's like you can say, oh, women are totally justified in doing that. All right, fine. They're totally justified in only seeing the top 20% as acceptable. Well, they're going to be doing a lot of sharing, and there'll be no relationships. One or the other. And it's women who have to choose it, unless you want to choose it for them, Tim, which I'm not exactly sure what you would choose for them, considering that you think that the lower 80% of men has no value. And somehow you think that if they did gain, I don't know, value from Tim's school of men's value, that somehow women will stop wanting the top 20% of men, stop skimming off the top 20%. which they will continue to do. And if you say to women, yeah, you can live a promiscuous lifestyle, you can have birth control, you can have abortion, you can choose whatever men you want, you don't have to expect any kind of commitment because you aren't going to be raising children, whatever. If you give women this is what they do. They select based on who makes their girlfriends jealous. That's the top 20% of men, not the average man. The average man is out of luck. It doesn't matter what he does. Because the problem is that he can increase his odds, sure, but ultimately we need enough women to say, I don't want to be the top 20% side piece and compete with all my girlfriends for a man that will make them jealous. I just want a relationship. And until enough women say that, we are with this situation, and you justify it by saying, well, those men who are lower, they're not worth it anyway. So it's deserved to just throw them away. Okay, well, what you're throwing away, what the average woman is throwing away, is a relationship. One or the other. And again, it's women who have to choose. Men cannot change any of this.
All right, I'm going to play more.
Look at this. I asked ChatGPT. The average body count for a woman between 25 and 44 is 4.2. And for men, it's 6.1. And you know what that means? Fewer guys are having more sex.
Yes, absolutely. And you have this giant bottom of the pyramid group of guys, like you said at the beginning, who are feeling left out and like they're never going to get a girl. Which
they're going to burn the place to the ground.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
actually, what's interesting is people need to update their theories and ideas here, because what seems to be happening is that women are also now catching up with the sexlessness of men. Because the reality is we've broken the entire system for men and women. And apparently there is a substantial group of women who neither want to be in a relationship with 10 other women and one man, nor are they, for whatever reason, they can't seem to get into a relationship with the average man. Because what we've really done is we've broken the structures that were in place that sort of, shuffled people along into relationships. Like, we've just totally fucked that. That has nothing to do with men or women. We just screwed it. It's gone. We don't really have extended families anymore. We don't really have the social functions we used to have, where people could meet in a not as sexually charged an atmosphere as like clubs. I don't even think we have clubs anymore. So I mean, it's like there's so few avenues by which the average man and the average woman can meet each other. So it's almost a remarkable feat that they do now. But here's the thing, like, a lot of women don't want to be part of the dating algorithm as it is now. And the dating algorithm produces one outcome: 20% of men, 5 women for every man. That's what it's producing, because it's broken. All right. So now women are in a situation where they're not getting relationships because there are many women who don't want that. But there's no way for them to get sorted into relationships with men. And also, the real, like, and what I think also is happening is because of all of this nonsense and all of this TikTok, high volume TikTok nonsense that's making men who are average lose all faith that they can find a woman who actually cares about them. What's ending up happening is they are opting out of engaging with women entirely. And that has a knockdown effect that of even more ruining women's chances if they're not in like the top, like up 6 and above, right? Right. So it's like all of these factors are coming together, and now we have a lot of sexless women. Because this was not a problem. This is not just a problem that men face. Ultimately, women are going to face it down the line, because we have, as a society, we are not making the average woman, the average man, a catch for the average woman, like someone that she's going to be interested in. We are not doing that work. We're not getting them together. We're not giving any assistance, and we're also stripping men of all of their unique types of value. Like, in the past, women chose men because they knew masculinity itself had a value. I mean, Tim goes and says, well, women are, they start at a 4 because they can give birth. But in the past, masculinity itself was seen to have value, but we're not allowed to do that because if we say masculinity has its own unique value, we are excluding women from it. So we can't even present men as having their own unique attractiveness points relative to women. And in simultaneous to that, we present them as a terrible option for companionship for women. So we strip men of all their unique value. We present them as a terrible option of companionship for women. We have basically destroyed all of the more casual ways for the average man and woman to hook up. So now we have a huge female sexlessness problem. Do they care now? Or wait, sorry. Let me apply. Let me channel my Tim Pool, my inner Tim Pool. Those women, they deserve to be selected out of the gene pool. They're losers. Just let them rot in the grave. Like why? They're unmarriageable. They have no marriage prospects. They're big fat female zeros. Like
You got to throw some I don't know mans in there. I don't know, man.
I don't know, man. Oh man, these big fat female zeros. They deserve to be sexless.
I'm not taking sides, but
Yeah.
looks
no
like you're a
side
loser.
care. Yeah, lady, you're a loser. You're not having sex.
Also looking up, asking ChatGPT, lol.
I'm surprised he got something coherent.
Well,
Right.
he's paying for ChatGPT 4, so whoa, look out. We got a badass over here. The bias is a lot more like streamlined. So anyway, let's finish this off because we're at the end.
Yes, please.
In general is not sustainable for like multiple reasons. You have the conversation you guys had last week about how all these girls thinking jumping on OnlyFans and making money that way is a good thing, but it's having every girl be an Instagram model or a sex worker produces no actual value. There's nothing of value being actually produced in the economy. It's just money that's getting
What we have freaking done is we have destroyed pair bonding in our society, right? And we look at the people who are sort of winning, the six or aboves, the women who are six or aboves who are able to actually interest the top 20%. But really what we should look at is how our society has failed the average and below average man and woman, because they are the ones who are going to really suffer. The relationship for men and women, a relationship, a marriage, is a source of health. It is a source of happiness. It is a source of economic well-being. It is a cushion from the blows of the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. It is companionship. It's all kinds of good things. And our society has fundamentally destroyed it. And we look at what's happening on dating apps. It's turned into the only people who are getting anything out of it, apparently, are the 6 and above and the top 20% of men. And we look at that and we're like, you can look at that and you can say, well, women are really, making out like bank, but are they? And certainly they aren't if you go low enough. If you go low in the attractiveness hierarchy. And I'm not saying that women worst, women most affected, but women are affected. Not as badly as men. They can still get something. But apparently even that something isn't sufficient. Okay, let's finish this.
All right,
off.
this is like the last 20 something seconds, so might as well just go ahead and do it.
Cycled from people who actually are producers, and combined with the super low birth rates, we're already seeing like logistical problems, supply chain problems. You have Japan and Canada, euthanizing the elderly because there's more people in diapers that are old than young. It's not a sustainable situation, and the correction is going to suck. There's multiple ways it could happen, but none of it's going to be fun.
Handmaid's Tale.
She's got a good point.
Yeah, I mean, her primary concern is about basically people forming families, but I think that they got to want to, and I don't think women right now, I don't think they want to.
Yeah,
they don't seem to be. I think men do. I think men still do, but I don't think women do. I think that women see family and all that as oppression, and you got to shake them out of it. And I don't think men can solve this problem. Just, like we've been saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, women have to choose. Like they gotta. This is the chart that they have to make that choice. They have to choose whether or not they want a relationship or if they want a man who's going to make their girlfriends jealous. And if they, and the other thing is that that itself is actually destroying their relationships with each other. So they got to choose human connection or narcissism. And yeah, a lot of them, and like I said, there seems to be a lot of them who are actually just choosing to incel, I guess, to just go off on their own and just not do anything now because they just don't want to be part of this system. But now we got to figure out how to get those two groups together, right? We need to get the women who are now sexless together with the men who are sexless, and then we will triumph.
Yep.
Yep, and like I said, it's just our society has just given up on actually helping men and women get together. And instead of actually fixing the problem, we continue to blame men. We continue to say, well, men just need to measure up. That's like, well, you know what? Actually, now that I think about it, if women are opting out of this whole system entirely, that means that it's not the men, because they're even opting out on trying to compete for the top 20% of men. They're just opting out because this whole system is soulless. Maybe the problem is the dynamic, not men or women, although there are some aspects of the dynamic that women have not taken responsibility for that they can into a better effect. So yeah, anyway, that's my thoughts. All right. So I'm going to Brian. Do you have any final thoughts?
Well, the comment section is pretty great. A lot of guys are here saying
Sure.
Tim is taking a big old L. Lots of L's here for Tim. So there is that. I think I don't know. Like I guess there's a good. It does make me a little bit warm and fuzzy on the inside to see a lot of men saying, "Nope, not doing it."
I like that one. Tim
Pool
Pool is so strong, such a strong man, every woman's desire, right?
Yeah,
okay,
Tim
yeah,
Pool's such a strong man, every woman's
could you
desire,
lobster
right?
a little less, just a
Yeah,
little,
yeah.
just pull the lobstering back just a bit, just
Yep.
just
Not
just
even
engage,
yeah.
just
Go ahead.
engage the philosophy more than the lobstering, you know?
Yep. Yeah, but there's a lot of guys that are not thrilled with his takes, and that's good. I see that.
Yeah, and honestly, there's a lot happening, and there's stuff happening economically that is making it difficult. The upward mobility is gone, so there's a lot of men who can't even crack into that top 20% now.
You know, it's funny.
Because,
like, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, cool. No, well, I was just going to say there's just not a lot of men who can't crack into that top 20%, or at least even create like a small business that might be attractive to women. You know, it's like the economic fatberg at the top is preventing upward mobility for men, which is going to reduce their romantic prospects. And then we have all of the institutional narratives about how men are terrible partners and that masculinity has no inherent value. Like we honestly, as a society, when I pose to myself, is it possible to be even more at war with the idea of pair bonding? Could our society do anything more to try to destroy the relationship between men and women? Could our institutions do anything more to try to destroy the relationship between men and women? And I have to say that it's a stumper, because I think we're basically doing everything we can to destroy the relationship between men and women. I mean, our NGOs promoting feminist narratives about men using domestic violence and sexual assault to oppress women. Academia saying that masculinity has no inherent worth whatsoever. Social scientists saying that, lying about how single women are happier than married. I'm not sure there's anything more we could do to destroy the relationship between men and women. But of course, as always, men are to blame.
Well, and I wanted just another thing I was just thinking about. So men have essentially throughout all of human history tried to build and create and cooperate to create a space or society and a civilization for the purposes of protecting women and children so that they can continue their legacy and the human race can thrive and grow. You know, and you could look at it in a biblical sense where God's told Adam to go build the garden outside, right? Essentially, Adam, the first man, to build society for Eve and to raise their children. And we have been developing new technologies, new ways of, looking at the world, measuring the world, mathematics and science and architecture and agriculture and herding and hunting and building and protecting and technology and the industrialization and so on. And we have basically I think we're like basically at the we're reaching the level cap of like provision for women. We're at the point now where there's a computer right here that used to be the size of a building, like 100 years ago, right? Maybe less than 100 years ago. And we have never lived in a safer time, a more abundant time, a more provided for and protected time. And it seems like the women are still asking for the men to be like the pioneers, like the guys that were like, oh, I just came up with this thing. It's called an aqueduct. And there's like another guy, oh, it's great. What does it do? You know, I just developed indoor plumbing. Wow. And women would have been grateful at the time, but today they're like, well, I don't know. I mean, like, do I have the newest phone? And I think that
you got a good point. Yeah,
it's
hedonic
like
adaptation.
But how much more? Like how many new and novel ways can man provide and protect for women? Like, and they did it. The thing is that women are talking about this on an individual basis, right? Like, I want a man who can do this. But what happened, and it was better, we're better for it, is that men as a group came together and they said, okay, we all want to do stuff for our ladies, right? They're like, yeah, okay, how about we build like cities, power grids, plumbing, water that's clean, and we'll invent stuff. And look, there are men over there. They want to take our shit. Let's blow them away so that we can protect ours, right? And they built on this. We have cars and jets so women can travel, and women are getting all of this from men as a group, but they're not recognizing it in the individuals. They're just like, well, what did you do? So it comes back to that old Eddie Murphy joke, what have you done for me lately? And I guess it's just they're too close to how good they have it, but it feels like men haven't really slowed down. Like, they're still making gains, I don't like to see it as collective, and men generally don't like to think of themselves as a part of a collective, but if you look at it as a nation or as a society, as Western civilization, we have made tremendous gains. And I would say that most of it was inspired by a desire to create a safe place for men and for men's wives and their children to thrive. That's it. That's all they wanted. Men go to war for that. Men will go to the coal mines for that. They'll get the black lung for that. They'll get on a ship and go out, and fucking catch Alaskan crab for elites in New York, Manhattan for that. They'll do whatever. And women are just like, you're not doing enough. I don't want that. And people like Tim are like, step up, guys, from his, again, air-conditioned internet, high-speed internet access with all this technology. A lot of it was built by child labor, by the way. And it's just no sense of gratitude, no humility. I'm incredibly humble when I think about that, but it's true. So I don't know. That sounds like a boast. I don't mean to boast about my humility.
I am so incredibly humble.
I am the humblest guy in the world.
I am even more humble than that. Like, I just am so okay. All right. So once again, if you want to send us a message. Oh, actually, I think we got one, right?
We got a Super Chow and we got a Rumble rant. So
all right, let's do that.
All right. Do you here, I'll do it.
Yep.
So Xeranx gave us $5. That's the last one, right? On the note that we used to know these things, there's a channel called Far From Eden that I've watched a few videos of. Every Sunday, she reads stories that have to do with the old Grimm tales. The last one she did, she talked about what makes a good wife. I haven't finished it. She appears to have gotten some acknowledgement from a MGTOW guy I don't know. They had a stream, but I didn't finish it. Wow, there was this thing, but I don't know what it is. I do like the stories that she's reading. Don't know if Brian would like to check out her channel. I can link the last video or the previous one in the Discord. Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Sure,
it's called Far From Eden. I feel like I've heard of that actually.
Okay,
so there's that, and then I got a Rumble rant from NovaFan21, who says Tim Pool has a girlfriend literally talking down from his ivory tower to the common men. Well, sometimes when a man gets a girl, that puts them, they realize how fortunate they are, or maybe they think they deserve it. I don't know.
No, I think when the man gets a girl, it means that, he realizes how incredibly awesome and how every other man should emulate him. He lobsters.
It's true. Click, click.
Oh, man. Click, click.
Click, click of the pictures.
Click, 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 click. You heard it here. Instead of grizzle, grizzle, it's click, click. All right. So if you want to send us a message at any time after the show is over, you can do so at feedthebadger.com/justthetip. We get the full benefit of whatever you send, and you get to send the benefit of sending us a comment, not through YouTube's comment system. Also, it'll sit there, and we will ponder it, and then we will address it at the next show. And once again, we are going to have our monthly support options up at feedthebadger.com/support, which will include a promotional poster that you can purchase, a silkscreen poster. So it's like a limited edition poster. It's like the original NTFs or NFTs. Like prints are the original NFTs, like the real ones that you can hang on your wall and actually have something. So once again, feedthebadger.com/justthetip if you want to send us a message and a tip, and feedthebadger.com/support if you want to support us. And also, I guess I should add feedthebadger.com/subscribe if you want to join us in our after shows in our patron Discord and enjoy all the activities we do there, including resources like statistical stuff and projects and stuff like that. So back to you, Brian.
All right. Well, if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Hit the bell for notifications. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today. And please, please, please share this video, because sharing is caring. Thank you so much for coming on today's episode of Maintaining Frame, and we'll talk to you all in the next one.
Are machines, dude. Okay, they are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.